Hello, my name is Asa Hutchinson Wingle, and I have the immense honor of welcoming you today to the Arkansas State Capitol for a special event honoring a very special man, my dad, Governor Asa Hutchinson. In a few short minutes, we will unveil the official portrait of the 46th governor, and it will signal the culmination of his historic 2 terms as our state's chief executive. History will remember my father for courageously leading our state through the COVID pandemic and for creating record budget surpluses which have allowed for record tax cuts. Most importantly, he is leaving our state well positioned for the future. From leading the nation in computer science education, which will create new career pathways for Arkansans, to creating an unprecedented budget reserve for our state, my father has made a point of not just leading our state for the last 8 years, but laying a foundation that future governors can build upon. I hope that when future generations of Arkansans are touring our capital and they look upon my father's portrait, that they feel the same sense of pride that my family does. Thank you, Dad, for always leading by example. We love you and are so proud of you. I know y'all can't wait, so here we go. There's so much more. There's so much more. Okay, we'll do that one.
Thank you, Sarah. You have been a wonderful first daughter, and it's been exciting for me to see you intern in my office when you were in high school and picking juries with me, and then for you to join me in this special time the last 8 years means a lot to me as a father and daughter. So thank you, Sarah. And Sarah did not introduce who you know as Ella Beth. So this is Ella Beth, my granddaughter, who is now at Columbia University Barnard School. And thank you, Ella Beth, first of all, for kicking off our computer science initiative so well and being a part of this occasion. And of course, I wanted to recognize Susan, who's right here with me. And Susan has been a devoted friend, counselor through the years, partner in everything that we've done. And let me tell you, there's not been a more devoted First Lady of Arkansas in our history. She's been devoted to the people of Arkansas, devoted to the children of this state as she's worked as an advocate for them, and she's been devoted to the mansion as a historic venue for the people of Arkansas and in hosting the people so regularly. And she's obviously been an incredible partner of mine throughout all of this. And I want you to know she just took a little bit of time from her moving responsibilities to be here today, and that's been a big part of it. And so let me come back to the portrait. And first of all, this is by Michael Dees, is the portrait artist. Michael Dees is from New Orleans, and he has also was the portrait artist for former President George Herbert Walker Bush, as well as former President Reagan. So I was honored to have him selected to do this. And I'll just tell you, I like it. I'm okay with it. And that's sort of a big test. And when I met with him for the final time and I saw it, and of course, as an artist, he's worked on this for a year. How's it look? You know, what is the patient going to think of this? Patient's the right word, I guess. And I said I liked it, and he breathed a sigh of relief. And then he said, if you don't like it, I'll keep working on it. And that's the artist part of him, that he wanted it perfect and to reflect me. And I hope that it does. For 8 years as governor, I've entertained people in this conference room, and they've the school children particularly, but adults as well, I would introduce Governor Donaghy's portrait, explain why he hangs there, and then of course Governor Mike Beebe, and then they'd all look at me and say, "Where's your portrait?" And I said, "Well, mine does not go up until I leave, and I'm in no hurry." And that always brought a chuckle for 8 years. Well, I'm still not in a hurry, but it is time. And as Scripture says, there's a time for everything and a season for everything. And I'm grateful that, we have 8 years, but at the same time, 8 years is good. I'm ready to move on, and we've got an incredible successor that's coming along in Governor-elect Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And so it is a good time for this. Now, the portrait, I'll make a couple comments about this. First of all, I think it captures me. I hope that it captures me. But you'll notice that I'm standing in the portrait, and I intentionally wanted to stand because I wanted to reflect certain characteristics of me. And as you know, we hit the ground running. Our 8 years in this administration was busy, it was active, it was a time of action. I also wanted to be contemplative. And the decisions that I made as governor over the last year, I thought about. I thought about them in terms of what the people of Arkansas needed. I thought about them in terms of history, but most importantly, you think about decision in terms of eternity as well. You try to do the right thing, and I wanted to portray a little bit of contemplation there. Didn't get too much contemplation, but a little bit. And then I wanted to portray steadiness because governor needs to be steady. And I actually have people comment that I appreciate your steady leadership during the pandemic, as Sarah mentioned. But I also thought it was important, as you know me, there is a little bit of a glimpse of a smile there. And that reflects the hope that I have for this state, the hope I have for the people, and for the future. And so I like it. I hope you all like it because you're stuck with it for a long time. I wanted to recognize in this room my cabinet, and I see my cabinet that has sat around this table many times making tough decisions for the people of Arkansas. And thank you for your partnership and leadership. I see many of my staff that's here, present and past, and I'm very proud of you, and you don't get recognized enough, but you have carried the ball from the governor's office, working the tough issues, and very, very grateful for your leadership. So thank you, and I see Judge Karen that's here, but Chief Allison Williams, all of my team has done a remarkable job. Please give them a round of applause as well. I look at Mike Carroll, who was head of my transition team. So 8 years, how have we done on our transition? We're done.
Just about to get it.
But thank you and Pam for your longtime friendship and for being part of every aspect of my term as governor. And so finally, I'm going to come back, though, and again, thank each of you for being here and a key part of everything that we've done. I value you. And then I did fail to point out one thing. I like cufflinks. Mike Preston, I like cufflinks, and my cufflinks are bigger than yours. So those cufflinks there emblematic my history a little bit, that I've been governor for 8 years, but I also have been in federal service in Congress and in the Bush administration, and so that is reflective there. And as you get closer, you'll be able to see the two flags that are in my office that are portraits of those flags by Matt Coburn that were commissioned, and so there in the background both the United States flag and the Arkansas flag. And so thank you for being a part of this occasion today. And with that, thank you all very much, and God bless you. Thank you. I'm delighted that the media is here. And this is your last, you've never taken shots at me, so I'm not going to phrase it that way. The media has been incredible partners throughout this administration as well. And we can't convey a message as to what's been done without the media carrying that message as well as asking me the tough questions. So any questions?
Yes, sir. There is, to echo two or three other websites anyway, there is chaos on the floor of the House where you once served. The leading candidate anyway, Mr. McCarthy, has failed to get it on the first ballot. They're moving toward a second. That intra-party tension, sir, what does that suggest for the path that you hope to pursue in the next several months?
It illustrates the importance of bringing unity to the Republican Party, and we have clearly some divisions within our party that reflected the fact that we're not electing on the first ballot a speaker, which is the first time in 100 years that that's happened. And so we have work to do to bring our party together. There should be a diversity of opinion, but you also have to operate as a team to carry the mantle of leadership that the people give you. And so that, to me, expresses the importance of the race for 2024 and who the leader is going to be there and how we're going to unite our party. So I'm pulling that they will be able to get over this hurdle. It's critical that when the American people give the Republican Party and our team, we want you to lead in the United States Congress, we have to say we can lead, and the first part of leadership is electing your leader. So it's critically important that they finish the job and get that done.
The tumult, sir, would seem to suggest that a party that's rather to the right of the course that we sense that you want to follow. Would you agree with that, or?
No, I wouldn't, because you've got a vast majority of members of Congress that supported Kevin McCarthy and his leadership, and you've got a handful that's trying to bring disarray and unreasonable requests, and if you will, extremism to the party, and that's what you have to resist. But I think it really reflects well the fact that you have a clear majority, a vast majority, that supports the leadership of Kevin McCarthy. Andrew.
Where do things stand with you right now in terms of your plans, the timeline you're on for making a decision about running for president?
It hasn't changed. You know, I've referenced probably different time frames, which means that there should be flexibility in it. I want to make a very measured decision. I want to listen to a lot of people. I want to be able to test the level of financial support for one of the biggest challenges that our country faces that I would face if I did do that. And so I don't want to, you know, I've referenced the first part of next year, but some of it depends upon the level of support that I find as I go to Iowa and as I go to different places, as well as visit with people in Arkansas. We'll make that decision at the right time.
Do you have any big tasks that you want to accomplish these next 6 days?
Let me first say I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to say how we've handled pardons and clemencies during my administration. I have not put off the difficult decisions until the last 30 days. I've made tough decisions for 8 years on pardons and on clemency actions. And so I purposed a long time ago that you're not going to find me in the last week with a large number of last-minute pardons. And so part of that is because it's been intentional on my part to do the work every month on those pardon applications and the lists that come out, those that I have approved. And secondly, there is a 30-day notice requirement. And so I have to give notice of intent, and I did not believe it was appropriate for me to give notice of intent to grant a pardon, when my successor would have to give the final say-so on that. And so there, and everybody should know this because I get requests by text regularly, are you going to be able to grant some last-minute pardons? And I'm not going to do that. But you asked me what's on my agenda. We still have some economic development work, calls to make, announcements to make, and then it's really the transition. So it's not about what I'm going to do the last 6 days, but it's about working to make sure that Governor-elect Sanders has everything that she needs to be successful from my standpoint. And then there's always things to manage. We have storms last night. We have about 5,000 Arkansans without power. And so I see A.J. Gary here. He's monitoring that. We've been in communication last night and today. And so we want to make sure that even during the last period of my administration, that people who are hurting have the support that they need.
Ask the question of the First Lady. What are you gonna miss the most about not being First Lady of the state of Arkansas?
Meeting all the wonderful people of Arkansas and having a bully pulpit to sound out the needs of the children.
You could do that as First Lady of the U.S., I'm just saying. So.
Well, I'll be doing it all in between. Thank you, Robbie.
You made mention a couple of times about sort of your response during the COVID-19 pandemic, which sort of happened close to the tail end of your administration. Looking back at it, do you have any thoughts on sort of how those things played out? And is there any particular decision that you're particularly proud of?
Yes. Whenever you look at some of the right decisions that we made, I see Johnny Key here, Secretary Key, and he'll remember that we both had to gather all the stamina that we had and determination that we had to keep the schools open in the fall of 2020 when the pressure was enormous to close our schools down and to go virtual. And we saw that virtual didn't work. And so that was a good decision, and the fact that we now rank second in the nation in terms of days of in-classroom instruction during the pandemic shows that we did the right thing, keeping the schools open. Secondly, was to keep our businesses open and not to define our businesses as essential and non-essential. And we're going to shelter in place, which means that if you're a non-essential business, you have to close down. I never did that, enormous national pressure on that. You all will remember the maps on the evening news that had the states that were not sheltering in place, and there was only about 7 or 8, and so the governors that reflected those 7 or 8 hardcore states had telephone calls regularly. And I'll never forget, on one of those calls, somebody says, "I buckled, I'm off." and we didn't buckle. We kept our principles of keeping open, and I think that pays off and was the right decision. And then I think about our Department of Health and our healthcare professionals, and where's Renee Mallory? I don't know if she's here or not, but Secretary Mallory, we wore out between us 2 secretaries during the pandemic. And so that's how tough it was on healthcare professionals, particularly our health department team. Thank you and your team for what you did. All right, that's great. I think, do we have refreshments here? No, maybe not. I don't see any. So let's visit then. We've got, y'all get a closer view here. I look forward to visiting with you. Thank you all very much.
y'all. Like so.
Good job. Nice job. Nice
Did
job.
I project?
You projected.
Okay.
Thanks for not getting your